It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the two new releases of July 25th, 2008. Two movies in particular, one a big comedy hit, the other a sequel nobody was really asking for. But before we get to that one, let's take a look at that big comedy hit. It is the biggest new release of the weekend, and a lot of people really love it, but everyone except for, let's talk about Step Brothers. Yeah, I really do not like Step Brothers. I know a lot of people really like this movie, and I love Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, but man, does their stick go on way too much in this movie. The story you have here, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are two grown men who are forced to live together as stepbrothers after their single parents, played by Mary Steenburgen and Richard Jenkins, whom they still live with, marry each other. And the rest of the movie is literally them just going off on each other, getting loud, obnoxious. Sometimes it can be funny, but most times it's just really just filler, man. And there's just nothing about this movie that really holds up very well. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie. There are times, like I said, when the movie can be really funny when its stupidity reaches levels of hilarity. Like, I love that scene where they're building the bunk beds, and John C. Reilly jumps up on the bed, and it collapses on Will Ferrell immediately. Stuff like that is funny. The boats and hose sequence is really funny, but stuff where, they're just getting into random fights with high school kids. They do this creepy thing in interviews where they're both in there and they're acting very weird. The scene where they're sleepwalking and then just destroying the house and all that. The whole thing at the end about how the father, Richard Jenkins, talks about, I wanted to be a dinosaur when I grew up. It's just like stuff like that just really, it didn't bother me at first, but the fact that everybody kept quoting this movie and quoting all the stuff that really wasn't all that funny. Like, I'm sorry, the Catalina wine mixer thing was funny for a few minutes, but when I have to hear somebody tell me that when I'm outside on multiple occasions, the shtick gets old really, really fast. I don't care about the freaking Catalina wine mixer. Basically what I'm trying to say here. And the movie just isn't funny, man. Like, I get it. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly can be really funny together. I mean, they were funny in Talladega Nights, even though I didn't like that movie all that much. I still preferred it better than this film. But this, I mean, they were just really pushing the boundaries of how obnoxious and how insane can we be before people start to turn away. And apparently nobody turned away from this one, because this was a big blockbuster hit. And, all those people that were worried about Will Ferrell's box office star power after Semi-Pro, which was also an R-rated comedy, and this was an R-rated comedy too, that completely went away. So basically, why did Semi-Pro fail the box office? Because they opened an R-rated comedy in the middle of the winter time when everybody is still in school and all that. And of course, this came out at summertime, just as the kids were still out of school. So there you go. That's the reason why Semi-Pro didn't do well at the box office, even though I still prefer that movie much better than I prefer this one. This one just doesn't hold up, man. I liked it back when I saw it, but I've barely gone back and watched it, and from the little bits that I've seen from it, watching it again, yeah, it really, really does not work at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as Holmes and Watson, not even close to that. Holmes and Watson is the bottom of the barrel with those two in it, but this movie really does not hold up well over time. A lot of the jokes really don't add up to anything funny. The performances are pretty bland and predictable. I mean, there's nothing really that funny about it. I mean, I tried to laugh, and it just wasn't working for me. It's a film that really is just a middling, lackluster film that isn't as good as some of the other funnier comedies that we were getting around that time. But we were getting much better comedies across the board here. Pineapple Express is a much better movie than this. Tropic Thunder is a much better movie than this. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a much better movie than this. Baby Mama and What Happens in Vegas are much better movies than this movie is. Like, this movie just does not hold up well over time at all, man. I've tried to give it a fair shot, but yeah, it does not hold up well at all. It's a film that really is not that funny. At least in my opinion it is. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me on that, but I'm sorry. Step Brothers just isn't funny for me. I don't want to watch a movie where Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are just being loud and obnoxious for an hour and a half, and they're not making me laugh once. Yeah, I didn't like the movie. I really did not like this film anymore. I do not like this film. I think Adam McKay has done a whole lot better as a director. This definitely is not one of his better movies, so There you go. I look forward to all your hate comments down below. Bring it on. But yeah, I did not like Step Brothers. So, but here's a movie we can all agree is pretty bad. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last one we have here, which is The X-Files. I Want to Believe. More like I want to believe that there was some random person in the year 2008 that was wondering, I wonder what's happening with the X-Files. I would love to see another X-Files movie. That person was Tom Rothman because, yeah, here's another one of those movies from the really lackluster summer schedule for 20th Century Fox in 2008, which the sequel to The X-Files, I Want to Believe, of course, the sequel to the 1998 movie, which really isn't a sequel per se. It is more of a standalone movie. But then again, it's a standalone stories were probably one of the better episodes, were mostly the better episodes of the X-Files themselves. But unlike the first film, the plot does not focus on the series' ongoing extraterrestrial-based themes, but instead works a standalone thriller horror story, like many of the Monster of the Week series episodes during the show itself, as well as focusing on the personal relationship between David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson's Mulder and Scully. Scholar Mully, excuse me. But this time it follows the two of them who have been out of the FBI for several years. Living in isolation is Mulder, and Scully has been working as a doctor at a Catholic hospital where she formed a bond with a critically ill child patient. When an FBI agent is mysteriously kidnapped and a former Catholic priest who's been convicted of pedophilia claims to be experiencing psychic visions of the endangered agents, Scully is asked to bring Mulder back into the Bureau to consult on the cases because of his work with psychics. The narrative goes through the push and pull of his at first reluctant involvement in Scully's attempts to stay out of it. And really the biggest problem with the movie is that unlike the first film, this film really did feel like it was forced. And like Fox had literally nothing else and had to convince Duchovny and Anderson to come back for a less than spectacular film that quite literally almost killed this franchise. I mean, nobody gave a shit about this movie when it came out. It came and went, it flopped. And yeah, it was not a hit critically, and it just made people go, why the hell did you even bother to make this movie now? Like, who gave a crap about the X-Files in 2008? Like, what person out there cared about the X-Files so much that they wanted to see a new movie after all these years? And it'd be cool if they had something interesting to do, there was something fun in that going on, but no, this really did not work at all. It's a film that really is bland, it's boring. I mean, it doesn't even feel like an X-Files movie at times. I remember one person saying that it felt more like an episode of CSI than an episode of the X-Files. And if you failed to make something look as something like the original X-Files, and when you think it's literally called The X-Files and it's completely another show altogether, you have failed in your attempts to make a movie. And it's the same people who made the show. Chris Carter, Frank Spotnitz was one of the big writers on that show. They worked on this movie, so I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened to them to make this movie, and I just feel like it was rushed. It felt like it was a film that was rushed into production because, hey, Fox needed something for the summer of 2008, and when your schedule includes The Happening, What Happens in Vegas, Meet Dave, Space Chimps, and Mirrors, this is supposed to be your big marquee film, I guess. I don't know, but and coincidentally, falling on a year after the Simpsons movie came out, so maybe that's the reason why they went with this instead of, doing something that actually was something on the levels of the Simpsons movie, where people were waiting for that. I mean, a 24 movie would have made much more sense. A Family Guy movie would have made much more sense. Like, not the X-Files, not 6 years after the show had ended. And like I said, it literally killed the X-Files for a little bit before we eventually got those revival seasons in the teens, which brought it back to life, at least for the first season. The second season, not so much, but yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, this really felt like a wasted opportunity on so many levels. It just felt like it was a pointless, let's bring them back in here, let's make a quick cash grab on this, and hopefully we can sucker people into here, which that did not work out in their favors whatsoever, because, yeah, nobody cared about this movie at this point in time. Nobody wanted to see these two get back together again. And this film became largely forgotten, and obviously you could see why. It's not even an X-Files movie per se, even though it has the X-Files in the title. So yeah, needless to say, you can go ahead and skip the X-Files, I Want to Believe. And I want to believe that somebody at Fox got their asses handed to them when they said, let's greenlight this movie, because yeah, this thing sucks. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And what the hell happened to the summer of 2008? We were on a high note, and now we're heading into these lesser movies, and that trend continues into next week, where we have a couple of movies that were not memorable at all. Speaking of franchises that nobody gave a shit about, they have made another Mummy movie, The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, with Brendan Fraser, not featuring Stephen Sommers as the director. It's Rob Cohen, and not featuring Rachel Weisz. It's Maria Bello. Was that going to work out in the film's favor? No. We have Kevin Costner starring in Swing Vote with Kelsey Grammer and Dennis Hopper in it, and that movie doesn't seem like it's bad on paper, but it's one of those movies I talk about sometimes where when you go ambiguous with your ending, it really does not work out well. We'll delve into that one next time around. And we have Clive Barker's new film, Midnight Meat Train. So 3 films to take a look at next time around. We'll delve into those coming up on the next episode. That'll be tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell. That's when you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post new videos here every day. So with all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.